What, Alice?
It's me. Can I come in?
Of course. Come on in.
Do you mind talking to me for a few minutes? I didn't wake you or anything, did I?
No, I was awake. Sure we can talk.
He so rarely leaves you alone. I figured I'd better make the best of this opportunity. Please don't think I'm horribly interfering. I'm sure I've hurt your feelings enough in the past, and I don't want to do that again.
Don't worry about it, Rosalie. My feelings are great. What is it?
I'm going to try and tell you why I think you should stay human. Why I would stay human if I were you.
Oh.
Did Edward ever tell you what led to this?
He said it was close to what happened to me that time in Port Angeles, only no one was there to save you.
Is that really all he told you?
Yeah, was there more?
Yes, there was more. Would you like to hear my story, Bella? It doesn't have a happy ending, but which of ours does? If we had happy endings, we'd all be under gravestones now. I lived in a different world than you do, Bella. My human world was a much simpler place. It was 1933. I was 18, and I was beautiful. My life was perfect. My parents were thoroughly middle class. My father had a stable job in a bank, something I realize now that he was smug about. He saw his prosperity as a reward for talent and hard work, rather than acknowledging the luck involved. I took it all for granted then. In my home, it was as if the Great Depression was only a troublesome rumor. Of course, I saw the poor people, the ones who weren't as lucky. My father left me with the impression that they'd brought their troubles on themselves. It was my mother's job to keep our house, and myself and my 2 younger brothers, in spotless order. It was clear that I was both her first priority and her favorite. I didn't fully understand at the time, but I was always vaguely aware that my parents weren't satisfied with what they had, even if it was so much more than most. They wanted more. They had social aspirations, social climbers, I suppose you could call them. My beauty was like a gift to them. They saw so much more potential in it than I did. They weren't satisfied, but I was. I was thrilled to be me, to be Rosalie Hale, pleased that men's eyes watched me everywhere I went, from the year I turned 12, delighted that my girlfriends sighed with envy when they touched my hair, happy that my mother was proud of me and that my father liked to buy me pretty dresses. I knew what I wanted out of life, and there didn't seem to be any way that I wouldn't get exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be loved, to be adored. I wanted to have a huge flowery wedding where everyone in town would watch me walk down the aisle on my father's arm and think I was the most beautiful thing they'd ever seen. Admiration was like air to me, Bella. I was silly and shallow, but I was content. My parents' influence had been such that I also wanted the material things of life. I wanted a big house with elegant furnishings that someone else would clean, and a modern kitchen that someone else would cook in. As I said, shallow, young, and very shallow. And I didn't see any reason why I wouldn't get these things. There were a few things I wanted that were more meaningful, one thing in particular. My very closest friend was a girl named Vera. She married young, just 17. She married a man my parents would never have considered for me, a mere carpenter. A year later she had a son, a beautiful little boy with dimples and curly black hair. It was the first time I'd ever truly felt jealous of anyone else in my entire life. It was a different time. I was the same age as you, but I was ready for it all. I yearned for my own little baby. I wanted my own house and a husband who would kiss me when he got home from work, just like Vera. Only I had a very different kind of house in mind. In Rochester there was one royal family, the Kings, ironically enough. Royce King owned the bank my father worked at, and nearly every other really profitable business in town. That's how his son, Royce King II, saw me the first time. He was going to take over at the bank, and so he began overseeing the different positions. 2 days later, my mother conveniently forgot to send my father's lunch to work with him.
I remember being confused why she insisted that I wear my white organza and roll my hair up just to run over to the bank. I didn't notice Royce watching me particularly. Everyone watched me. But that night the first of the roses came. Every night of our courtship he sent a bouquet of roses to me. My room was always overflowing with them. It got to the point that I would smell like roses when I left the house. Royce was handsome, too. He had lighter hair than I did, and pale blue eyes. He said my eyes were like violets, and then those started showing up alongside the roses. My parents approved. That's putting it mildly. This was everything they dreamed of, and Royce seemed to be everything I dreamed of. The fairy tale prince come to make me a princess. Everything I wanted, yet it was still no more than I expected. We were engaged before I'd known him for 2 months.